That's what I wanted to get your thoughts on, man, because you've seen it all from fighting all the guys like Usyk and Spence and Crawford, and just talk about that wow factor and what you think it would have been like to actually have to go up against it in the ring.
Yeah, I do. I think more so as an amateur because as a pro, nobody had really gotten off on me at a rate that they could really feel comfortable. I even think that Terence, I love how he said, yo, in the first round. So he ends up picking me up in the first round, right? And that kind of he said that kind of like for him, it set the tone for the rest of the fight for him. And he knew, like basically he said in the first round I picked you up, and I knew I got you. And I was like, damn, like that's messed up, you know. But at the same time, he knew that he couldn't get jazzy. He knew he couldn't get funky because he knew like he still knew me. You know what I mean?
Inoue was
He's
getting
like, yo, I
funky and
got him.
jazzy after round
Yeah,
two. Yeah.
yeah, like. But after 3 or 4 rounds, my man anyway in there getting funky with it. And it's like he just knows. And to me, that's sexy. You know, for you to know, like, I got you. There's nothing you could do with it. I've been in the ring with just about everybody that I fought, and I knew there was points where I got to where I knew I had them. I think maybe the only one. I tell you what, two. This is two that come right off the top of my head. So Terence is the only fighter I've ever been in the ring with where I was like, well, I can't say ever, but definitely one of the only fighters I've been in the ring with where I did not have a moment where I felt comfortable, like I'm good, I got it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, this one might surprise you. That Danny Garcia. I thought against Danny, I was gonna get to a point where I was gonna start to take off.
Two
And
counter punchers. I don't think that's a coincidence. Two counter punchers.
very true. I felt like I was taking off on the kid, right? And it was like he was like, "Yo, wait, where you going?" I remember that happened in that fight, and I was like, "Y'all thought he was gonna be gone, and he's still here." And I think that's why that fight ended up being as good as it was. Danny has more heart than a lot of people give him credit for, you know. But usually, what happens when you recognize that you can do the things that anyway did against Neri today, where you start to drop the hands and you start to really get funky with it. But to see that happen in like 3 or 4 rounds to me was amazing.
And he did the same thing to Stephen Fulton.
Yeah,
And what he did to Donaire and knocking him out in 2 rounds of the rematch means he's not only beaten the three best opponents he's fought, he's destroyed them in Neri, Fulton, and Donaire.
yeah.
And so, but you brought up Bud with well, I did actually, but then you expanded on it with Bud and Inoue. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick comparison of Bud and Inoue, a little
I think you
metaphor
leaned
to
into my question, by the way. So go ahead.
and then I want your comparison of the two of them too. But there's a little because there's an argument over pound for pound number one between these two, right? And there's a really great argument either way. And I'm gonna take you back to 2009, 2010 in the NBA. And you remember the puppets, LeBron James and the Kobe Bryant puppets over the rings?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so around that time there was this debate: whose league is it? Is it Kobe Bryant or is
Yeah.
it LeBron James? And Kobe Bryant, like Terence Crawford, was older,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
even though Bud actually looked as explosive as ever against Spence, but stick with me for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I got
He's like number 24 Kobe, in his
you.
30s. It's still my league, right? Like Bud, I'm still number one pound for pound youngin,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
this guy is coming and he's on his tail. And Bud, like Kobe, is the more savvy guy. Triple pump fake, little slither, little window, get the
Yeah.
shot off, hand in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
no
Yeah. Yeah.
problem, right?
Yeah.
LeBron is just coming down the lane and jumping 10 feet above the rim and just jack. And
Yeah.
that to me right now is like the LeBron Kobe. That it's like the 2010,
Yeah.
that's Inoue and Bud right now.
I
Bud
love
being
that, man.
Kobe and Inoue being LeBron. Just this
That is a
ridiculous
hell of
yeah.
an analogy, and I hope that catches fire, and I hope that it catches fire for you because I really do feel when it comes to expanding the audience of boxing, to me, and this is what I've been trying to do with the Porterway podcast, you got to get people from other entertainment fields, other sports talking about boxing. And that's why I don't know if you've caught this before, but when I use analogies on the show, I always use a football analogy or I always use a basketball analogy because I know people y'all are connected to basketball, y'all are connected to football. Y'all can catch the rhythm of this. And guess what? For those who are just catching this podcast for the first time and you hear me give you a football analogy, it helps you connect to this boxing game that you may not know a whole lot about. You know what I mean? So that's a hell of an analogy right there. And I think you're spot on with that. You got the Kobe Bryant who gonna be great until his last game, and then you got the LeBron that still got to prove some things to the to the states. You know what I mean? And prove some things to some people. But while he's doing it, he ain't doing nothing but dum dum dum, and that's sexy. Which leads me to my question: who's doing it better?
Like who is pound for pound?
No. Who's both of them are doing it at the highest level, but who's doing it better? Terence Crawford or Naoya Inoue?
It's very that's why I love my comparison. Like
Yeah,
it's like
because you're only as good as your last performance. You know what I
Inoue
mean?
is more active. He's the younger guy fighting more often, right?
Yeah,
Bud's fighting once a year these days, right? So Inoue's more active. He's but there's a sense that his flaws with the chin up and stuff. Bud's chin has been up sometimes too. You caught him with some right hands in mid to close range because of that, but it feels like that's a more glaring flaw, but he
yeah,
has more glaring, overpowering strengths that make up for it.
yeah,
It's really hard, man. It's a shame they're not the same size. I feel like head to head, I'd maybe give an inch to Bud because if they were the same size pound for pound, I'd probably give an edge to Bud because I feel like he could take advantage of that glaring flaw in a way 99.9% of other fighters can't because his ability to see everything and punch in between your punches. Inoue is a masterful counterpuncher. Bud is an even better one. And
mm-hmm.
that might be what would be the difference if they were in a mythical same size fight.
Yeah.